Clerks call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Reverend Melanie Barnett Wright from St. Albans Episcopal Church in Arlington. Thank you very much for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledge.
Almighty God, you proclaim your truth in every age by many voices. Direct in our time, we pray, those who speak where many listen, and write what many read, that they may do their part in making the heart of this people wise, its mind sound, and its will righteous. Almighty God, whose loving hand has given us all that we possess, grant us grace that we may honor you with our substance, and remembering the account which we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your bounty. Grant, O God, that your holy and life-giving Spirit may so move every human heart, that barriers which divide us may crumble, suspicions disappear, and hatred cease, that our divisions being healed, we may live in justice and peace. O Lord, our Governor, bless the leaders of our land, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other nations of the earth. To the President and members of the Cabinet, to governors of states, mayors of cities, and to all in administrative authority, grant wisdom and grace in the exercise of their duties. To senators and representatives and those who make our laws in states, cities, and towns, give courage, wisdom, and foresight to provide for the needs of all our people, and to fill our obligation in the community of nations. To the judges and officers of our courts, give understanding and integrity, that human rights may be safeguarded and justice served. And finally, teach our people to rely on your strength and to accept their responsibilities to their fellow citizens, that they may elect trustworthy leaders and make wise decisions for the well-being of our society, that we may serve you faithfully in our generation and honor your holy name. For yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Reverend Wright, thank you again for coming out today. Mr. Maney, agenda announcements.
Your Honor, members of the court, we do not have any announcements this morning.
Thank you, sir. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of February the 2nd.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a proclamation, I guess, Commissioner Brooks.
Yes, Your Honor. I've got a proclamation already presented. I move its ratification.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have one additional item this morning for the court. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve interim financing for grant year 2009 grant renewal from the Department of Housing and Urban Development as relates to the tenant-based leasing assistance program, which provides rental assistance for homeless individuals and families in Tarrant County. Let me say that on this particular item we have received notice of grant award, but as is typical with this particular program, that the time between the beginning of the fiscal year and the time we initially received the funding is somewhere between 3 or 4 months. We've been doing this for about 15 years, and we've always been reimbursed, so we're requesting that the court provide this interim financing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Tidwell.
We have one item for the court's consideration this morning, and that is that the court would approve the release of $200,013,000. I can't get that out this morning. Of collateral as requested in the attached court communique, which leaves sufficient collateral on hand to protect the average current balances.
So move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Snyder.
The Risk Management Board is recommending the payment of the claim to George Greenwald in the amount listed on your agenda.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wright, where'd he go?
Don't know.
He's here. Okay. Mr. Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is requested that Commissioners Court approve change order number 1 to the Steele and Freeman Construction Management Contract for the Northwest Sub-Courthouse Expansion Project.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn.
Good morning. We have 3 items for the court. First item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file a personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item, we're asking for a waiver of terminal benefits for the 348th District Court. Judge Womack's court coordinator is retiring at the end of this month with 400 vacation hours. We're requesting a waiver effective March 1st. The impact to the general fund will be approximately $1,300 when we take into account salary savings of the new hire.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our third and final item, we're asking for approval of out-of-class pay extensions for Precinct 4. Specifically, we're requesting 2 out-of-class pay extensions as outlined in your court communique. We're requesting these extensions through May 9th. Fiscal impact is approximately $2,000 to the Road and Bridge Fund.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, the members of the court, we have one item for your consideration this morning. That is an item in regards to our RFP number 2009-063. This is our annual contract for secure access control maintenance for all our county buildings. This was brought to the court initially on May 5th, 2009. We are asking the court to cancel that previous award to Access Technology Systems Incorporated. We received a letter from that company on the 16th of December 2009 asking that they be allowed to terminate the contract effective immediately. They actually did not figure their prices correctly. We visited with them prior to that. They've been a good company, and we feel like it's the best interest of Tarrant County to cancel that award and re-award to the secondary vendor, Ingersoll Rand Security Technologies.
Typically, when we offer this kind of a concession, there is an exclusion period. Are you recommending that in this case?
In this case, no. They've been a good vendor. They were a new vendor. They were a hub vendor. They performed work satisfactorily. We visited with them, as I stated, encouraged them to look at their pricing structure. Actually, we'd like to give them another chance sometime down the road.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
Mr. Wright, we're good. I move for approval of the interlocal agreement with the City of Crowley, item 8M1A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Fickus.
Yes, I move approval of interlocal agreement with the City of Colleyville, 8M2A and B, and also the City of Richland Hills, which would be 8M2C and D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to include the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Maynes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two items for the court's consideration this morning. The first one is the update on the H1N1 influenza. Ms. Brewer is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very briefly, we're continuing to have great turnouts at our ISD events, and we'll continue those through February. As you're hearing in the news, nationwide and certainly in Texas and here locally, we are not seeing very much influenza-like illness. We couldn't be happier to hear that, but we will remain vigilant throughout the flu season, which is now into the early spring. And recall that we did not see H1N1 until the end of April, the 1st of May last year. So while we're very glad to see that there are lessening numbers of reported illnesses, we will remain vigilant through the rest of the winter and spring time to see what this virus does or doesn't do. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
No, but while you're up here, would you just mention for the record where we're staying with the City of Azle with their water off and restaurants closed and schools closed?
Yes. Because of the boil water notice, many of the restaurants remain closed, although those that have emergency operation procedures in place that meet the minimum standards are starting to reopen. We are offering consultation for those that contact us, and we are working with the Azle ISD around the same issues. Our understanding is that the City of Azle will be sending the water specimens out for testing later this afternoon. Tarrant County Public Health does not have the specimen for testing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lou.
Members of the court, if we could go to item B. This concerns an update on the 2006 CIP. Mr. Phillips is here to address the court at this time.
I would like to update you on the progress of the jail facilities project and the medical examiner's office expansion project, both included in the 2006 capital improvement program. First, the jail. It's been a somewhat eventful 30 days for us regarding the jail. The first thing is the new jail building project and the Correction Center fire alarm and security replacement project. Both were publicly advertised for bid on January 25th. Second, the City of Fort Worth issued a building permit for the new jail building and the Correction Center work. Mark Starr with Broadus Associates, who's augmenting our staff, project management staff, came barging into my office a couple of weeks ago with these two permit cards, and he was very excited about that. They've been working on getting these permit cards for about 4 months. Part of that is the city's effort to review the drawings, and part of that is the architects and engineers' time to respond to their questions. So it's been an engaging event. On the same day, if that wasn't enough, on the same day, Clarence Presley came to my office and gave me a copy of this. This is a letter from the executive director from the Texas Commission on Jail Standards to our county judge and our sheriff. It states that their staff has reviewed our construction documents and they meet the minimum jail standard requirements, and they have approved us to move forward with construction. So it was definitely a red letter day that day. There's certainly been many folks involved in the city permitting and the jail standards approval process. I'd like to thank just a couple of them real quick. The hard work of the architects and engineers has been appreciated. Also the hard work of the city permitting staff, the jail standards staff, and of course my staff. And I'd like to especially thank the sheriff and Bob Knowles for being with us step by step through the process from day one. And they've certainly been great to work with on the project. Bob Knowles has been Johnny on the spot when we asked him to go down to jail standards with us to meet with the jail standards folks to work out some of the details. He's made the trip down there with my staff and the architects, and I certainly appreciate that.
We need to be sure and pass that. I don't see Reed this morning, so we need to be sure and pass that along to Fort Worth and tell them how much we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
The next thing I have, again, the project's out to bid, and the bids are scheduled to open March 4th. On to the medical examiner's office. Well, if I thought things couldn't get any better, they did. Mike Amador and Jeff Blackwell, who's with KAI Texas, is also an extension of my project staff, barged into my office with this document.
Fort Worth's been busy.
Yeah, this was the next day. The next day, I was quite excited. So we do have the inspection building permits for both projects, and it worked out real well for us.
Awesome.
The bids have been, on this project, the bids have been received, they've been evaluated, the numbers have been refined, and I've got those for you today. The next step is for me to ask direction from Commissioner's Court regarding the third floor shell space. We structured the bid in such a manner that we made the third floor shell space an ad alternate, and I have the numbers for you here today to discuss. Also, Dr. Parawani is here if you'd like to discuss that option with him as well.
Thank you.
What we have here is two total capital budgets, one blue, one yellow. The yellow is the base bid project with a two-story building, 43,000 square feet, laboratory building. And the total capital budget for that, including all professional fees, all site work, the construction, furniture, and the miscellaneous things that go along with that, is about $25,118,000.
You're saying budget.
I've circled the total capital budget on your copies in a blue pen.
Right, but I guess my question is, you said all the bids and everything have come back in. Are these the budgets, or are these the budgets, are these accumulations of the bids?
These are my budgets, my total capital budgets. There's one line item on, if you'll look at line item 2A on that first page, on either the blue or the yellow, that's the guaranteed maximum price.
So what did we approve? Remind me or refresh my memory as to what we approved for the bond package.
$26.5 million, and that included all costs, professional fees, land costs, construction costs, furniture, fixtures, equipment, lab equipment.
26 what?
26.5.
So we're about $500,000 short to go with the additional third floor shell?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. On the blue one, includes the third floor shell space, which bid as an alternate. Also, it includes a couple of smaller alternates that we included regarding some maintenance issues with the building. And it is $27,062,000, which is, again, as the commissioner said, about $500,000 shy of what the voters approved.
Where is the $500,000?
We have the $500,000, and we'd like to talk to you a little bit about that.
But I want to go back and absolutely be sure I understand. The 27,062 581 is a guaranteed maximum price.
No, sir, that's my capital budget. I think it'll take to do the project. The guaranteed maximum price that I would hope to present to you next week, or not, if not the following week, from Thomas S. Byrne, would be the item on under Section 2 under construction contracts, where it says $18,939,000 right here.
Okay, I see that.
That's the component. That's just one component
That's
of the overall.
construction price. That's not the drive off the lot price.
That's correct. That's the
Drive off the lot price is the other stuff that we're adding in as far as the land acquisition and all that other stuff.
Yes, sir.
Total project cost.
Total project cost. You've got everything that I possibly could think of associated with this project is right here on this piece of paper.
Including a contingency?
Yes, sir.
Now, the contingency is in that $27 million, as I'm reading it, the contingency is the $1,288,000.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Are there other contingencies down below?
No, if you'll notice where in the column toward next to the numbers, it's where it says the word bought out. That means we've actually already bought those contracts out. If it doesn't have anything, those things are yet to be bought out. I do have some concern about 2 or 3 items regarding the site work and things. I do know Precinct 4 is going to need some dollars for the materials to resurface JPS parking lot as required in our land exchange. And we do have a couple of buildings we still yet to have to take down over there, and we've got some environmental cleanup. So we do have some issues there. I am a little concerned also on item 7C, which is the electrical. Once the Commissioner's Court approves the guaranteed maximum price, we'll know exactly what we're going to build, either a 2 or 3 level building. At that point, we give our construction documents to Encore, and they will price to us the relocation of a large transformer and underground utilities that's on our property, so that exposure's out there as well. And I just don't know what it is yet.
And that exposure would be something that would the contingency would be available to address those issues. Is that correct?
Yes, that's why that contingency's there.
This dollar amount, the $300,000 that you have to the right, is that an estimate of what the exposure is, or is the exposure in addition to the $300,000?
Commissioner, that is my best estimate a few years ago, based on my experience with dealing with TXU and Encore on moving lines.
Okay.
You might recall that we had sold the debt on this several years ago, and we have been generating interest off that, even though we're not getting a lot of interest now. We did pick up some interest that first year. And we have sufficient interest that we earned off that money to cover the additional $500,000 that David is talking about. So staff is going to recommend to you that we do the 3-story shell space, and that if we do need any additional monies, I'm talking about the $500,000, that we utilize the interest earnings that we had off that bond debt.
What's the total interest earning?
I think that when you look at just the CIP piece, not the transportation piece, but the CIP piece, I think it's $5.7 million of interest earnings so far.
$5.7 million?
Yes, sir.
I think that this facility is going to need some expansion space. I think we'd be foolish not to build it now, because this is the lowest cost that it's ever going to be. The money being available through interest earnings, I move that we accept this alternate.
Well, now, are you looking for an action? Are you looking for action today, or are you going to be bringing us back something next week that would have the?
Judge, you have the cost, and what I would bring next week is the guaranteed maximum price contract.
So I guess so. What you're looking for now is an indication as to whether to bring the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so that is something you need from us today.
Yes, sir. I need direction. Either it's a 2-level building or a 3-level building.
Move for a 3-level building.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Dave, you mentioned that the $27,062,000 number was your budget. That's not an actual bid.
That's correct. It is not. It is an accumulation of all the various costs associated with delivering a building, and that is professional fees, that's land acquisition and improvements, That's every component.
Is the $18,939,000 number an actual bid?
Yes.
That's not a budget, that's a bid.
That's the number I'll bring back to you next week,
Okay.
or
Okay,
if I get all the paperwork done, maybe the following week.
thank you.
And that includes the third floor shell.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The 18,939 construction cost of the building, along with the, which includes the third floor shell, is there additional contingency in that number?
It is built into the guaranteed maximum price, the the construction manager's contingency of approximately 3%. That's part of the guaranteed maximum price delivery.
Okay, so let me repeat what I just asked and what I think you just told me, and tell me if I'm right. The 18,939 represents the construction cost plus a 3% contingency
Included in that number.
in the 18 million.
Yes, sir. It's
So the 1,288,000 is additional contingency above and beyond the contingency that's in the 18 million.
That's correct. The part that's part of the guaranteed maximum price is for use of the construction manager for things that they didn't get bought out in the construction documents. What could happen, something didn't get bid, and they may have to go buy it out later. If the project extends for 60 or 90 days because of weather or any fault of their own, they would need that to help offset some of those general conditions cost. It is a part of the guaranteed maximum price. The very bottom owner's contingency is just that, for the owner's preference themselves. If one of the line items go over, like utility relocations, we would address that at that time. It is not for the use of the construction manager.
Dave, the difference between no third floor and a third floor, you've only increased the architectural fees $24,000, which is less than 1% of your professional fees. Is that a realistic assessment? You're going to increase the building size significantly, but you're only increasing the architectural less than 1%?
We've already encumbered the cost regarding the architect already. Now, what you don't see on here, there are some, well, the number's built in here, but we expect additional services to Jacobs because there is a sewer line, sanitary sewer line we have to relocate, privatized to the two JPS medical office buildings that you'll see in a few weeks once they get the finalized numbers. That number's about $30,000 to $40,000 worth of architectural engineering fees. However, the sanitary sewer cost is estimated at $60,000 to $70,000, which is already built in as an allowance inside the guaranteed maximum price. Once they buy it out, it'll get adjusted.
Okay.
So I guess here's where I feel comfortable going forward, but I'm gonna go up my contingency one more time. I understand what you're saying up there. You're saying that really that 18.9 should not absorb any of the 1.2 contingency that we have at the owner's contingency at the bottom.
That's correct.
So if you take the 27, subtract out the contingency, that's about 25.8. You subtract out the 19 or the 18.9 out of that, you're left with $6.9 million. And so for that $6.9 million, we have about a $1.9 or $1.3 million contingency, or almost a 20% contingency on the remainder of the stuff that would be in there.
Well, the contingency is also, the owner's contingency is for things like happened today. We found out that we needed to add a fire pump and a domestic water pump at the Northwest Subcourthouse because the water pressure wasn't high enough. We thought it was, and it wasn't. So that is what the owner's contingency is for, is to make those owner additions with changes in design.
Okay.
And
so it
that's,
could
that's
actually
what
be related to some extent to the 18.9.
Yes, sir. We expect, and that's why we put a 5% contingency in that, Judge, and other owners put a larger contingency. We just put a 5%. But we put that because I certainly expect to have to use it because we certainly can't forecast everything. And I expect things to come up through this project over the next 21 months.
I'd also remember that when we put the bond package together, it was 26.5. It was only a two-story building. Never talked about the third story. So this gives us the flexibility of adding the third story and still staying within the parameters of the bond. Mr. Phillips assures me that he's not going to spend that contingency unless it's absolutely necessary.
And it would, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Brooks and Commissioner Johnson in that I think we need to have that shell space, that ability to expand, because that's something that when we talked about this earlier and we looked like we weren't going to be able to do that, we had kind of scaled back a little bit from that standpoint. So I'm glad that we're able to do it at this point in time.
Well, when we built the existing medical examiner's office, we built the structure so we could add on to it. But once you get all the equipment in that building, then it's all but impossible to go back and add on. So doing it now is going to be a very smart move.
Adding the third floor provides about 86,000 square feet of space, which they have about 40 to 42,000 now. And adding the third floor, which should take them to 15 to 20 years in the future regarding space requirements. At least that's what our needs assessment called out a few years ago.
And Judge, before we vote on this, a while ago you made a comment about thanking the city of Fort Worth. Mr. Rector is here now. If you'd let him know so he could pass that on to
We did. You missed the praise to Fort Worth's building area where we got hold up them 3 permits.
3 buildings.
We really want to thank y'all folks for helping and getting those done, and that's the Correction Center, the jail, and the medical examiner's office, and we appreciate that very, very much. Thank you, and pass that along to the staff. And you don't have to tell Fissler he didn't have anything to do with it.
Yes, I think he did.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. I have one
Your
audience
Honor, before we go there, can we go back to the district attorney's office? And
He was out of the room. Come ahead.
Sorry, I was talking to the fire marshal and got all excited out there. And we lost track of time. I'd like to go back to item E1. We have a check in the amount of $5,000, where is that number?
$457.79.
That's correct, and we'd request the Commissioners Court approve it and authorize the auditor to cash same.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Van Ravensway?
Yes, we do have a speaker here this morning, and before he comes up, I'd like to say something that is in preference to it. As we are all aware, we have not been in compliance with our air quality requirements for some time now. We came very close this past summer. We missed it by 1 part per billion. But that has caused us to have to refocus on what are we going to do. And since vehicles are still identified as the major source of pollution, it gives us an opportunity to look at some programs that we haven't initiated in Tarrant County, but that are up and successful in Dallas County, Ellis County, and Collin County. And that is looking at an emissions enforcement program. Excuse me. It's an opportunity for our cities and our constables' offices to work together, and based on the success that they've had with their program in Dallas, it won't be a matter of recreating the wheel. It will be a matter of taking their best practices and putting them into place for utilization for us. And this is really a focus on the fictitious and the counterfeit and the expired inspection stickers, as well as smoking vehicles. So that is a part of the LIRAP program that's been in place for several years, and it's just another opportunity for us as a county to come together and do something about our air quality. But we have to focus on the enforcement of those who are violating the existing law. So that's what Chris is here to talk to us about.
At this time, I'll call on Chris Klaus to come forward. Chris, would you please state your name and address for the record, and then because the comments you're making today are surrounding by a program that's not on our, it's not an item on our agenda, we will not be able to respond, but I think we may put it on the agenda for next week and invite you back.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, my name is Chris Klaus, Senior Program Manager at the North Central Texas Council of Governments. For the last 15 years or so, I've been with them, hired to try to assist in getting this region into attainment. We've had some standards, a 1-hour standard for ozone. We've met that. As the Commissioner mentioned, we were 1 parts per billion away from meeting this most recent standard. of 85 parts per billion, and unfortunately, every time you get close, EPA seems to try to pull the rug from underneath you, and we're now faced looking at anywhere between a 60 to a 70 parts per billion standard. And I think the legislature recognizes that this is important because transportation, we have a judge, you serve on the Regional Transportation Council, and Commissioner, you do as well, and a multi-billion-dollar transportation plan that if we're unable to continue to meet attainment or show that we're making strides in air quality, then that kind of puts our multimodal transportation plan in hostage. We've been very successful historically to avoid any freezes or sanctions, and we are always working to continue to try to do that. And the legislature recognizes it, so as the Commissioner, you mentioned, there is some money that's been collected from individuals that do get their car inspected. Some of the money that's not used to actually repair or replace vehicles get put into something called a Local Initiative Project Fund, and then those monies come back to the county to implement innovative air quality programs. And the legislature does have a listing of the types of programs that are eligible for funding. All of them are pretty much at a 50% share match, except, as the Commissioner mentioned, the emissions enforcement. They feel that that's as a result of a small amount of vehicles contributing to the majority or half of our automobile emissions, that's really a program that they'd like to see the money go to. So they've actually lowered the share, and I believe it's about a 20% match instead of the 50% match that for other types of programs that are eligible. And Judge, Commissioners, we as a Council of Governments, as mentioned, we've assisted other counties to implement this program. There's been a lot of lessons learned, still growing, and any assistance that we can provide to the county to explore this program, perhaps consider implementing it, we're able to do so and commit the time and resources to assist in any way we can.
Chris, appreciate that. As I said, we will put this on the agenda for next week, and in the meantime, you'll probably get a call from someone in Mr. Manius' office or one of us just to kind of help work through maybe some of the questions that we might have as we move forward.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, not at this time, Your Honor.
This time, the Commissioner Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551071, 1072, 074, and 076 and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
Right.
Having returned from closed session and there being no business, at this time, we are adjourned.